looking at this theme this year about having a new day, and sometimes we're forced into those new days. But right now, actually, we are in the middle of the Christmas season. You realize that Christmas is not over. This is the sixth day of Christmas. When I talked to Ann about what she could get me for Christmas, I said, you don't have to get me anything because you're all I need. How about now? Really, she's supposed to give me 6 geese a laying. The true love is supposed to get, but she didn't do that. Instead, we got this. Anybody know this song, by the way? Who any solo here? Where are our musicians going? Fred, can you sing this? Where's? Okay, who can sing this? Nobody can? This is the number one Christmas song this year. This is and has been. Mariah, I don't think I can do this. All right, hey, oh, woo, woo, woo. All right, that's what I see. That's why, so I decided not to get Ann anything for Christmas either because all she wanted was me. So this is how's that? how about this? How about this song for Christmas? Anybody know these people? Okay, let's see how good you are. Mary, maybe you can keep us going here. Okay. Okay, keep it going here. Okay, here we go. One more verse. Okay. I've taken over. Okay, we keep on going. I got. Oh man, we can keep on going. All right. Hey, what? This is HarborPointe, Jim. I've lost it.
All I can think about, hey, let's yell, how did Sonny die?
Yeah? How did what die?
How did Sonny die?
How did?
He ran into a tree skiing.
Uh,
Tree skiing. And I did not run into a tree last week.
All right. Yeah. That's right. Say, one thing I was leading up to. Actually, there was a Crystal. What? Hey, Crystal, you missed it, man. You missed your opportunity. We had. Yeah. We had. You got to stay for the second service now because we got some songs for you. truth of the matter is, Mary and Joseph may have been singing, they don't have anything either. I mean, they've got nothing. I got you, babe. That's about all they had. They go down to Bethlehem. They don't have anything. They got one another. They're from this backwater town, and they're singing, but I got you, babe. And I also got this baby. We got the three of us. We got the three of us, and that's all that they had. They go to Jerusalem to have their purification rites, as you were saying, and in that purification rites, actually there's three basic kind of things that are going on at this time when a baby is born. Circumcision on the 8th day, where you get your name. You also pay a redemption tax, this kind of fee, or a redemption fee. There's something that you pay so that redemption of the firstborn, and the firstborn of the animal, firstborn of the family, you're supposed to sacrifice that firstborn, but you can pay a redemption a fee for that, 5 shekels, and apparently that would cover the cost. And then you have what's called purification rites, because a woman is unclean after they're having the baby, and so for 40 days after a male is born, then they have this purification rite. And it says, when the time came for the purification rites required by the law of Moses, Joseph and Mary took him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. As it is written in the law of the Lord, every firstborn male is to be consecrated to the Lord. And to offer a sacrifice in keeping with what is said in the law of the Lord. And what the law said is that you're supposed to bring a lamb. But if you're too impoverished, if you don't have any money, well, then you can bring a pair of doves, or you can bring 2 young pigeons. And that's what they brought, because they didn't have money. I've got you, babe. That's about all they've got. They said, we don't have enough money to pay the rent. But we've got one another, and we have got Jesus that we're bringing. And it was kind of like they saw in their own lives something that I pray that all of us realize, is that no matter how impoverished we may be, our real wealth comes from our relationships, don't they? I mean, it's when all's said and done, nobody is going to say, well, that guy, he's got a big bank account, he has a nice car. It's all going to be, he has friends. He's got relationships. There are people in his life. There are people that have connected to, that he's connected to. There's just this overwhelming need that we have. I just got a call from somebody who was just saying, hey, I lost my job, wife lost her job, baby, everything, eviction notice has come on in. We're in a bad way, and definitely in a bad way. But the worst poverty that this person faces is not financial. The worst poverty always is relational poverty. It's always the worst. Some of us, Tony, you used to be a part of the Breakthrough Center. Some of us here were part of it. I used to say, there wasn't money exchanged at the Breakthrough Center, but what was exchanged were relationships. People could connect to somebody who cared. What's that? Called love. Love. I like that. By the way, for those, Tony, if you're new, you can say one thing, but after that, you can't blurt out anything more. The rest of the you're due for the month. Actually, at Linwood, I think that's really true. I mean, and this is something that we've all experienced in one way, shape, or form. I remember going to this church, and I was sharing about how everything in my life had just kind of unfolded, and everything was going down, and everything was and afterwards somebody came up to me and said to me, Tom, I just want you to know, I pray for you every day. And I was just struck by that. I said, gosh, how much wealth has I been given right there? My bank account got filled. Somebody's praying for me. There's somebody who's connected to me. I'm not alone. Because that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Is that we're doing this together. My mom said that they went through the Depression, and she said as a kid sometimes she would not want to come up to they would receive communion up front, and they get on their knees to receive communion, and she said she didn't want to do it because her shoes on the bottom, there were holes in her shoes, and it would show the holes, and those were the best shoes that she had. My mom said that when they would have somebody over for a meal, they would go to their neighbor's house and borrow cups and saucers because no one had enough cups and saucers to go around. It was just, and you know, my mom said, but I didn't feel poor because everyone else was in the same boat, and everyone else they're pulling for one another. There was my grandmother used to make sandwiches and go down to the train station, and there, she said hobos would be there, and then they would just give food out to people that were riding the trains. And it was just there was a communion that was taking place. There was something that was happening. The poverty in and of itself is not the issue. It's relational poverty is always the issue. And part of that is in our connection with God, isn't it? That at the deepest part of us, the relational poverty that so many people have is they don't have a relationship with God. What do you do when life goes south? Unless you start something deeper inside of you that opens up to God. It's a new day, something new. These guys, Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus, come to the temple, and there's this guy named Simeon who's there. It says, now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon who was righteous and devout. And I'm saying every single church has a Simeon. Every single church has this old guy at the church, righteous and devout, and he is waiting for the consolation of Israel. The Holy Spirit was on him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not die before he'd seen the Lord's Messiah. And moved by the Spirit, he went into the temple courts, and he was there faithfully. He would go there faithfully week after week, day after day, and he would just seek God. And he loved God with his whole heart. I mean, he was just, and just, you know, I think we could probably all have names for this guy. When I was growing up, there was Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis was that guy. He would greet you at the door and shake your hand. And one time I went in, I was like 10, 11 years old. My hand was filled with ink. I'd gotten some. Remember the old days when you had those ink pens, the cartridge things, and you stuck them in, and all this. I mean, you went around with blue hands. Well, my hands were all covered with that stuff, and I kind of was ashamed to shake his hand, and he just grabbed my hand. But the greatest thing about Mr. Davis, though, was that he had candy. Every single Sunday, he would give me a piece of. I mean, I don't remember anything about Mr. Davis other than I got a piece of candy from him and a handshake and a smile, and I know that he believed in Jesus. I know that there was something about him that just believed in Jesus. I want to say this, and I just so hope for the kids that are here, somehow that they're going to say there's a Mr. Davis in their life, because it makes a difference. I actually had another Mr. Davis, a different Mr. Davis that taught Sunday school, and that Mr. Davis was also kind of special. Maybe the name Davis is special, I don't know. But he used to bring donuts to class. I just thinking, man, I just Sunday school and donuts. I just will always remember. I remember there was something more going on. But this was Simeon. And when the parents brought in the child, Jesus, to do for him what the custom of the law required, Simeon took him in his arms and praised God. You can see this guy. He's picking up the baby Jesus, and he is excited as he can be, and he's holding the baby. I tell you, we've got a little grandson now, Beckham, and you hold the little guy, and he just makes you feel good when you do. We got to see him when he was just a few hours old, and pick up that little baby, and he's there's something about that, and this little baby is getting picked up, and he's praising God, and he's just as excited as he can be. There's the love of Simeon is flowing out to this little child, and guess what? The love of that little child is flowing right back to Simeon, and there's this mutuality going on here. And he says this, Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace. I'm ready to go home. My bucket list is complete. How many of you've got a bucket list going right now? This is some kind. This is I'm not sure what my bucket list is, but for my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all nations, a light for revelation to the Gentiles and glory of your people Israel. I see something special in this child. I see something in his eyes. I see something, and he is just as excited as he could be. And the child's father and mother marvel at what was said about him. And then it says, Simeon turned his attention from that child, and he turned it to the parents. And this is kind of, parents are just as excited as they can be. They come to this church, they see this godly man, he says something special about their boy, and now they're saying something special about them. Then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, this child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed. Now, here's the deal. This blessing is kind of an interesting blessing in that they're saying this child is going to be able to reveal thoughts, hearts. It's going to be open. You're not going to be able to mask what's going on inside. How many of you would be sort of embarrassed if all your thoughts and heart's desires were all of a sudden on display? I mean, here you go. This is what's really going on inside right now. Here it is, and it's all out there. I can't imagine what that would be like, huh? It could be kind of embarrassing, couldn't it? Would like to retract. How many of you would have, even things that have gotten out? There's things that have gotten out, and you'd like to say, "Oh, I'd like to rewind this scene." How many would like to rewind a few scenes in your life? That is a good way to do it, Jim. I think, quite frankly, that has happened a lot. I know this one person got up in our church, and you know HarborPointe well enough that you can pretty much be yourself here. And if you've got some skeletons in the closet, I might as well get them out here as anywhere, huh? This is how many of you have gotten your skeletons, a lot of them, out of the closet? This one person. This one person put out the skeletons, and I think it was too much for them. I think they just said, "Oh, skeleton's out. I gotta move on." Because once those skeletons are out there, Jim, it's a great chance for healing. Here's the thing, when we have a real encounter with Jesus, I think one of two things can happen. Either when we get those skeletons out, that can either begin to move us into a new direction that's healthy and whole, or we will say, "I will never do that again," and we build a wall that's even firmer than ever before. And I think we see both things happen. And as you said, there's so many people that cut and run. It's just one of the options, but it's an option. There's just a wall that is built, and that wall is the thing that Jesus wants to tear down. He says, if you meet me as I really am, if you meet Jesus as he really is, he's going to do a number on you. You can't stay the same. You You can't stay the same. Now, there are a lot of fictitious Christians floating around. There's a lot of phony Christians. I don't know how in the world people can call themselves Christian and be phony at the same time, but because that was the very thing that Jesus came to undo. He wants us to be real. He wants us to be the way we really are. I was when Ann and I first got married, I said, I said, you won't get to know me for a while because I hide a lot of my stuff. But Ann, on the other hand, you get to know her pretty quickly. Now here the first movie we watched together. We were just married. First time we ever watched a movie together, it was A Man from Snowy River. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but here we watch. We're sitting on the couch and watching. Put in the VCR back. Remember VCR days? And put those VCR in, and we're watching the movie. And it starts out with this guy trying to pull some logs up a hill with his horses, and he's got a sled, and the chain breaks, and the logs roll down the hill, and Ann says shoot, but she doesn't say shoot. It's just And then she looks at me. She's married a pastor, after all. I mean, she looks at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at her, and I don't. And then I did it again. Well, then it rolls. No, then it comes down, and she says shoot, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, this is. That's not exactly what she said.
It was tense.
But there's something about us being able to say, this is who I am. This is the way I am. This is how God's made me, and I want God to keep on reshaping and remaking me. This is what Jesus wants to do in our lives. But for many people, because Jesus can break us open, there's a reaction as well as a movement toward him. This final little phrase is something that must have struck Mary at the core of her being, because this is what Simeon says to Mary. He says, and a sword will pierce your own soul too. This is the destiny. This is the calling. This is what God's up to. This is what's going to happen in your life. And I can't imagine what that meant for her when she heard those words. I'm not sure she understood what was going on. I don't think that she could have comprehended or really got this inside of her, but I think she recalled it someday later on, didn't she? The Bible talks about swords. And it says that as a nation, God's desire is to take swords and turn them into plowshares. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nations shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, because swords are used to destroy, aren't they? And we don't have to talk about, we have to say, be careful of the fire, it can burn you, but we don't have to tell a person to be careful of the sword, it can cut you open. You don't even have to say that, do you? A sword is dangerous. It's designed to slit. It's designed to pierce. It's designed to hurt. It's designed to kill. And sometimes those swords come in different ways, don't they? How many of us have had a sword come to us in the form of a word spoken to us? Hide me from the conspiracy of the wicked, from the plots of the evildoers. They sharpen their tongues like swords and aim cruel words like deadly arrows. How many of us have had a sword cut us so deeply that we wish that we had had somebody actually take a physical sword. I mean, it would be easier on us. But the words have been cutting. The words have been destructive. The words have hit us at a painful spot in our lives. Now let me ask you a second question. How many of us carry a sword with us and have used that sword on others as well? And it's been a means to hurt and to destroy other people. This is something that we're called to do, is to take those swords and turn them into plowshares. I think what God wants to do is to take those swords and turn them into means not to destroy but to bless. That somehow, just like Simeon came along and was able to say, how can I bless those people that have come into my presence? How can I give a blessing? I think that's really what our tongues are meant to do. How can we use what God has given us to bless those around us? That's really our calling, isn't it? What can we do to bless those people? Now there are times where God says, I do need to do some surgery. There's some infection going on in your soul, and something has to be done. And he says, when my word comes and really does its work, it's alive and active. It's sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even the dividing of the soul and spirit, joints and marrow. It judges the thoughts and attitudes of the heart. Nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight, and everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of him to whom we must give account. God does want to do surgery into the souls of those of us where there's infection. It needs to be lanced. It needs to come out. The gunk needs to be spread out. It needs to be revealed. Because unless that happens, we won't heal up. It's painful. It's painful, but it has to happen. And we need to say, God, if you need to take a sword to me, okay. But I don't know that we are supposed to be the ones carrying swords ourselves. I think if God wants to do it, that's fine. There's some people that just seem like their calling in life is to wield swords. I think God may be saying it's time for those swords to be reshapen. Now, of course, that picture of Mary with the sword that's piercing her soul, it's going to be at the cross, isn't it? Where her son is going to die, and she's going to witness this, and she's there, and this is in one sense the end of a chapter in her life. This one chapter's coming to an end, and a new chapter is about to begin. You know, the next part of this verse is that Jesus is saying to John, I tell you what, I want you to take care of my mom. And Mom, I want you to be a part of John's family. I want you to be cared for and ministered to and have some new relationships that are going to go down deep. An old chapter in your life is coming to an end, Mom. A new chapter is about ready to begin. And it required a sword piercing your soul before that can happen. Now, I know if we're going to go around here and I was to open up that door, what kind of sword has pierced your soul? We would have a story, wouldn't we? Every one of us would have a story to tell. And for sure, I think the biggest story for me of being pierced is when I heard my former wife saying to me that she was no longer going to be there. It's over. Actually, I didn't hear those words from her initially. It was from her sister It's a phone call. She said that she's seen a lawyer. She wants the children. There's been, and the words that she used, there's been sin. And I said, God, no. I didn't just say, God, no. I fell to the floor. I balled up in a knot. I said, God, no. God, no, God, no, God, no. That was my prayer to God. God, no. And I don't think I'll ever get over that in one sense. But in another sense, I've been blessed beyond my wildest dreams with having my best friend and partner now. Took a while for Ann to find me. But, it's a new chapter. A new chapter. And, God is working on a new chapter for all of us, isn't he? And a lot of that new chapter has to do with that sword being plunged into your heart. It's a spear. It's pointed there deeply. Larry's leading a great group on Thursdays at 12:30, and it's a great group. But he wouldn't be doing this unless there had been a sword that had been plunged into his heart. He says, I need some people around me to share with. It's a great group. I could go round and round. I could go on. In fact, I think by and large, by and large, I think the reason why we're here this morning is because we know that we can hope that this is a safe place to come and to be able to say, there's been a sword that's been plunged in my heart too. And, I just pray that as we begin this kind of end this calendar year, begin a new calendar year, that a new chapter is going to emerge in all of our hearts and lives. A new chapter of God beginning to reveal to us that he's not done with us yet. That there's something ready to happen. There's something new about to happen. God is not done with us. And it doesn't matter how painful that sword is. God's plan is for something new to come out of that. And it can't happen unless that sword goes into us. It just won't happen. I remember sharing I was with a bunch of pastors and talking about the things that I've been learning about life. Now I'm a single person and gone through the divorce and a lot. I said I've learned so much. I've learned so much about my understanding of who Jesus is, that he was there for the marginalized. And I just said I see something different about life. I just don't see it the same way at all as I did before I'd gone through what I went through. And he said, well, he hoped that he could learn those lessons without going through those experiences. And I said, I don't think you can. I don't think that's possible. I don't think it is possible. I don't think you can just read about something. I think you have to experience it. I think you have to experience it. There has to be a sword in your soul before you're going to be able to know what it's like to be able to be a wounded healer, which I think God has called us all to be here. Lord, I pray that as we enter 2019, that we're going to see you at work in a special way. That there are going to be a bunch of friends around us that are going to be people that we can trust and who are going to bless us, and we're going to bless them. There's going to be this mutual blessing going on. And that we're going to be open and honest, and we're going to let some of those walls come down and become a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit stronger in our faith and our trust in you. I just pray that this is going to happen this year, this day, as well as this year. And I thank you for this time. I thank you for those who are gathering here right now. I pray that your Holy Spirit would just encourage, enliven, strengthen, bless. And I just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.